So I want to start by introducing our guest speaker today, which is Jakub Zegzulka, um, on our top breaking into AR/VR today. So Jacob is a current undergraduate student at Art Center College of Design. And despite being a college student, Jacob has had years of experience designing products for companies and clients like Kiwi.com, Undoubted, Zoe, and while excelling in designing 3D digital products and impacting the business at scales, Jacob has pivoted into the 3D space and became one of the most notable and talented designers in the AR/VR industry. And in his freshman year, he landed the AR product design intern position at Meta Reality Labs, surpassing 4,000 plus applicants. And currently, he's contracting at Apple as their product designer. We're super grateful to have Jacob today to share his experience and his perspective on the AR/VR industry. And please give a round of applause to Jacob.
Wow, thank you, Jackie. It's probably the best introduction I ever got. Appreciate it. Happy to be here. Should I jump into my presentation? Cool.
Let's go.
Organize some stuff here. And full screen. Can you see it well? Cool. So yeah, let's get into it. Super excited to be here. As Jackie mentioned, I'll talk about XR, but also my journey and kind of my approach in terms of internships and in general getting into XR. So let's get into it. First, I will also kind of super quickly introduce myself. I'm 21 right now. I call myself designer, artist, and prototyper, and I'm from Czech Republic, which is in the center of Europe. Before we get into the stuff, exciting stuff, just a disclaimer. I'm also still in the beginning kind of too, still like a student. So I'll probably mention a lot of things that I think went really well for me. Maybe some things that didn't go as I planned. It's not to brag. It's just more like to provide my perspective and show my journey. And it's up to you. What do you take out of it or not? It's more like to maybe show you some interesting ideas that you might apply to your own life or career or your journey with XR. So yeah, let's give it a quick story in terms of how I started and when it started. It was 2018. I was 16. I was still in high school, and that was the time when I started my first internship at agency called Mavo, which is super small agency in a small city in Czech Republic. The reason why I wanted to get an internship was this video, which I will play. I hope it plays the sound. Can you hear the sound?
I want to be a clothing designer, kind of like Virgil and like Sean Witherspoon. Yes. And I was wondering, what would be your advice for me to achieve? Go intern for Virgil or Sean. And you're gonna start with Virgil and Sean, and they're not gonna reply to your DM. But you're gonna hit up Jerry DiLorenzo, Lorenzo. Next, babe, next. But somebody's gonna say yes. And you start at the number 44 person you wanted. And the next summer you get the number 22 because you worked for number 44.
I think I really like this video. I mean, Gary Vee is a big crazy guy, as you can see, and it's a bit extreme. But the idea there is like, if you want to do something, it's good to find the people who you really appreciate and who you envision maybe to be in the future, and learn from those people. And this really like pushed me. I was like, okay, I should find some internship. So in a small city called Ostrava, there is not that many agencies. Maybe there's like 20 agencies. So what I did, I just found all of them and reach out to all of them. And I got this internship. I was actually going there just once per week after school while still being in high school. And there were just 4 people working in that agency. So as you can see, it was kind of not how most of the people would imagine proper internship, but it was enough for me to get started, get a bit familiar and just get my foot into the door as a first step. So I was there, I was working on some cool things. When I came there, I thought that I know everything, that I'm super good in design. I was posting some funny stuff on Dribble, and I realized that I don't know that much actually. That I suck in many things that I thought I'm really good at, which was good realization for me. Uh, and after that, I was mainly working on some smaller concepts, and just getting mentored by the only designer in that agency actually, and learning a lot. And at the end, I shipped one website and brand for a client. So that was my kind of first thing, which helped me to get this small point in my CV. And it's kind of, as I said, it's not really proper internship, but it was enough for to get the next internships kind of, and show that I already have a bit of experience and have something in my CV and learn a lot, of course. And after that, I had a couple more internships in Europe. Then I was working for some clients in UK, some clients in the US. Did a couple of internships while being in high school, and kind of, but really that first one was the breaking point for me, because I think the first one is really hard to get, and I think from that moment it gets easier and easier. And what I just wanted to say, the first one doesn't need to be, as people would imagine, the perfect one, even though it was good. So what I want to mention also, that applications never really worked for me. I feel like nowadays a lot of students, when they want to get a job or internship, they just apply for through applications. Sometimes they apply just to one or five, which I think it's very crazy approach. Some people, I mean, in a way, because I think the chance is very, very low. So if somebody applies for 100 and more, maybe it's a bit higher, but I think it's still kind of low. So I was always thinking, what are some other ways how I could get into the industry? So I started making a lot of connections. I was looking for different hacks. For example, 2020 pandemic hit. There was this platform who started called ADP List, and which is a platform that matches you with different mentors. And at the time when it started, you could book as many calls as you like. So it's like, okay, I will book 45 calls for the upcoming 60 days, and just meet a lot of people and get feedback on my portfolio, do some connections, and just kind of really something, maybe playing a bit numbers game. I'm not saying this is the best approach, to be honest. Some people might say this is disrespectful, which in a way that I was scheduling a lot of calls, but I think it really worked well, and I think also the people enjoyed it. I think main thing here, and also connected to interviews, is like, I think it's always good to smile and show excitement, be kind of a bit outgoing. As you can see, I'm sometimes maybe too much, but I think that's something that always really helped me a lot to make some connections. And then the next summer, I was looking for an internship and already could leverage all those connections that I made, and share with them this website I created, kind of seeking a full-time internship. This is just a part of it, and through this, kind of showing that I can go the extra mile, and I'm bit unique, and showing that I can look at the things from a bit different perspective. I think especially when looking for a job, we should also think about why that company or that person, hiring manager, why they are even hiring for this role, or why we might be helpful for that team, what we can bring to it, and what they might be looking for, and based on that, kind of communicating ourselves. So I mean, yeah, I reach out to many companies. I think the main idea here is that it's always good to reach out as many as you can, because it's hard right now. And yeah, that was a bit about internships and how I went. And then in 2022, which is just 1.5 years ago, not so long ago, I moved to the United States, to LA, to study interaction design at our center, as Jackie mentioned. So this was kind of, I would say, just 2 years ago, not that much, and I still don't think I'm super talented or skilled XR designer. I think now, with working with actually the best people, I realize I'm really just in the beginning. So maybe I can share a bit about how I approached when I'm now even kind of starting out. So yeah, I started making always a lot of concepts. I think what's good to mention is that even though I study at our center, actually, and which is awesome school, actually a lot of the things that I have been doing were self-taught. because I'm just a fourth term. I actually didn't have any XR class yet, which most of the people think that most of the things I've learned at school. Actually, the truth is, I was always looking how to transform the classes I'm already taking into what I actually want to be doing. So, for example, I don't know, even these two pictures you can see here, most of the people had just 2D digital designs. But I was like, no, I wanna learn something new and leverage what I actually wanna learn in the future. So that's how I was kind of always transforming the classes for myself. The way I approached learning was always for me that I chose some kind of tool I was interested in, or maybe platform, maybe it's a coding language, and I just did a couple of tutorials on that topic to learn some kind of basic features. And then when I knew that, I was thinking, okay, how can I use that few elements or aspects of the tool I learned into creating something maybe which is even slightly connected to the tutorial, or maybe transforming it into some different problem I'm solving, different use case, and just create something on top of the tutorials. But I think what's really good to mention here is that I don't think it works just following tutorials. I think a lot of people expect that when you want to get into XR, you can get like a big course or just be following tutorials, which sometimes works. But I think the journey is pretty random in a way. I think you have to be sometimes learning, sometimes creating, most of the time being confused, actually. Most of the time not knowing what you're doing and hoping that the next day you will solve it. Uh, but I think it's this very messy process. But I think it's always good to I don't want to, yeah, like find, like create, basically. Yeah, that's what I want to, good to create as much as you can. And what was always motivating me personally was this my playground page. It might sound a bit funny, but I have this page where I post everything I do. And as you can see, a lot of these things, they don't look well. Not gonna lie. I think most of these things are not high fidelity, just experiments I've been kind of doing. But I have to say the hiring managers and in general people I'm reaching out to really appreciate it and appreciate the explorations and the kind of huge range of things. So what I want to say is, like, even for portfolio, I don't think we need to post just the final pieces. I think we can just be exploring, creating small, like working on small experiments. Some of these things took me like 3 hours, let's say, not even that. But it's this kind of small motivation for me that I know that after I try that and maybe learn something, I can post it on my playground and others can see. Now I will talk about my first XR kind of more proper experience, even though it wasn't also that proper as you might think. So it was an opportunity that I got at Playbook XR, which is a XR design and prototyping tool based in LA. How it all started was that these guys called Sky and JD, they had a like an event at our school, something similar to this actually, like a club, and they were showing us their tool that they are working on at USC in LA. And I found it very interesting. As you can see here, I'm in the background trying it, getting excited by it. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting. It would be cool to work with these guys, because this was still 2022. It was kind of a few months after I properly started getting into XR. So I was like, it would be really cool to work on something with these guys. So I messaged them on Discord after this, talk they had, and said, hey, I love what you were doing. And what I did, I sent them this file, which is not that complex, with the feedback on their kind of demo that they were showing us and on the different features. So I already showed that I have some skill set and that I can provide some value in their team, and provided the value before I asked them for something. And I was like, hey, I'm currently, by the way, I'm learning, C# and XR. If you have some space, I'd like to collaborate with you. Evan not getting paid, which I know is a bit controversial topic, but Evan not getting paid, just wanna work on anything that you want, that you feel like I might be helpful with. And we had a call, and they were like, oh, maybe you can help us with QAing the features that we are developing and doing some research. Let's try it for a month and we'll see how it goes. And of course, at the time, I knew I don't want to be QA analyst or not even the design researcher that much. But I knew that it's really good opportunity for me to, again, get the foot in the door. And when I'm already in, then maybe I can show them that I can bring more value through design and other skill sets. But I ask for little and make the barrier for me to give me this opportunity very low. And at the end, I actually worked. I think I never worked on any QA much actually, or what we were thinking about in the beginning. Actually, I started working on a lot of like different design explorations and interaction design. So, for example, I was exploring how we can leverage Gen AI to speed up design workflow of XR designers, where I was using a lot of Unity and leveraging OpenAI API to generate textures and environments. This was, by the way, 1.5 years ago. I know right now it might sound a bit simple because with AI we are a bit further, but at the time it was very exciting and it really helped me to understand how real XR products work. What's the process like? What the team consists of? That there are some technical artists, maybe there are also engineers, research, kind of like understand the structure of creating XR product. And also what I worked on was we were working together on redefining the navigation and information architecture of the whole tool. Here we were really thinking about what are the things that we think that people will do the most in the tool, and how do we set the hierarchy of the whole information architecture so the users have the tools always by their hand, especially if they are the main ones. And here, actually, a lot of the work I've been doing, I wanted to show this, were just sketches. And I was thinking about different ways how to maybe approach navigation or approach panels or approach how does it look like when somebody clicks something. It doesn't look like that, but there, for any small detail, there is just so many ways how we can approach it. And then when we found something interesting, we were like, okay, let's prototype that and see how it actually feels in a real prototype. So I think the main things when working on these were that I realized that XR is much more complex than 2D, and much more harder to learn, as I mentioned, because the human body is very unpredictable and we do so many things we don't even realize. Maybe there are so many edge cases. Maybe we are close to the wall. So like, how do we work with the environment? Maybe we are lying, maybe we are sitting, maybe standing. Maybe we have hands close together, maybe far away from each other. Maybe there's so many different inputs in input methods in XR. Now Vision Pro with eye tracking and pinch is a big thing, but there's so many other ones. Maybe the user expects to touch the button like this directly, or maybe we can have some kind of pointer aiming at it, or be using the eyes, or maybe it can be some gestures, right? Some kind of combination of gestures. There's so many ways. And even on like more conventional 2D products, there is many ways how to approach the things. But the difference is that on conventional products such as like phones or laptops, we have been working on these for so many years, and there's so many a lot of best practices that we are used to because we use these devices all the time. But in XR, we actually don't know what's the correct way. So most of the time you're just exploring and thinking and trying to find the correct way, and probably you won't find it. But or maybe you will find something that it feels very good, but I think, at some point somebody will build on top of that idea and find maybe something better. And also I realized that we can really leverage all the inputs that we have to kind of predict context of what the user wants to do. Since we have so much data, we can see where the person is looking by their eyes. We can see where their head is rotated. We can know where their hands. So maybe if somebody has a hands down, they probably don't want to interact with anything, right? Maybe if they have it like this, maybe they're preparing to interact with it. And all these like small moments that you can really use to leverage the experiences and make them make them more personalized to the context of the user and what they are doing. And last thing I want to mention for this one is that I think to design XR well, you have to spend a lot of time in XR. If you want to get into it, I would just get a Quest and just play with it, use it. I think there's a lot of XR designers who actually don't use XR that much, which is a problem. And after that, let me just check the time. Oh, I'm good. After that, last summer, not even a year ago, I went to Meta, where I was the only intern, AR product design intern working on AR glasses in reality labs. And this was very interesting. I cannot talk much about it, of course, but I wanted to mention some of the tools that we were using. So primarily, people were using a lot Unity. I think Unity is very essential. Bezier is a great tool to kind of just get started and start building out some scenes. But sometimes for some post-production, when communicating some concepts, you might even use like Adobe After Effects or Cinema or Blender. Some teams even use shapes and basic storyboarding and sketches. I think what I want to mention for this one, and it was funny when I was looking for these screenshots, is that some people might think that it was very easy to get there, but the truth is, I was for the first time I was trying it 2019, which is not actually 5 years ago, 4 years ago was my first time applying to Facebook at that time, and then 2020. I got a recommendation of director of product design. And at that moment, I was like, cool, that's it. I'm getting in. I'm moving from Czech to US. I was like excited. I thought it's in my pocket. I didn't even get the interview. I was like, oh my God. I was kind of also confused. But I mean, that was 3 years ago. I just kept going, kept trying. And then in 2023, a year ago, I got reached out. I don't even know what's the reason of this. It may be because of these two or how it happened. I got reached out that if I want to try interview, and then it finally happened. But in total, I think I had like maybe 8 applications across different roles and years. It was a long process. For me at Meta, some things that I wanted to mention that I think I realized is that I think to be really, really to be at the top of like XR design and prototyping, I think I think we should be able to prototype in very high fidelity, which I cannot do, to be honest. I'm working on that. I know that's something I want to really have. But I think if we look at products such as like, for example, Vision Pro, right? It has so many small details that we wouldn't even think about, such as like this shadow or in general the material and the way the motion, right? When we tap on something, how does it move? How does it reflect the light? Here, actually, the pictures are reflecting a small percentage of the colors to the environment itself, and all these small details that I think are very essential to create prototypes which feel good. I think that's yeah, just feel good, something that feels finished and polished and thought out and focus on the craft itself. Also, what I realized that in XR, I think art direction is an important part of the process, because, and I think it should be even in 2D design in general, but I feel like sometimes we skip that. But I think it's really important to think about what's the vibe we want to create in those experiences. And since it's immersive format, right? So you're really, I mean, it depends if you are in AR or in like virtual reality, but basically you can really impact how you make the user to feel using things such as like motion, visual, sound, light, haptics, all these things. It's really important to think about what's the vibe you want to create for the user, or maybe the message, and how does it relates to the features that you have or the experience you want to create. And also, last thing I wanted to mention, and that's a bit related also why I think I got an internship, is that I think it's important to have some kind of long-term thinking and vision. Actually, what's funny, I think the main reason why I got this opportunity was that in my experiments, which I showed before, which are not even polished, definitely not high fidelity, it's the opposite. But I was exploring one of those experiments, I cannot say which one, was exploring something that actually those guys at Meta were working on. And I didn't know about it. I just thought it's cool. And I thought it would be cool if we can do it in the future. So I think it's really good point to kind of thinking about what we might want to do in the future and be just sharing it. And maybe some company that's actually already working on will find it interesting. Yeah, and after that, after the Meta internship, this was 6 months ago, I think, something like that. As I mentioned, I wanted to focus on prototyping and 3D, so I created this kind of, I don't know, like how to call it, vision board or something like kind of, oh, I'm technical artist, 3D designer. I want to and prototyper, and want to focus on shaders, animations, new interactions, and all these things I want to really get good at. So I started creating a lot of small experiments. Again, just thinking, okay, I want to explore shaders, so let me just watch some tutorials. I want to explore how to do good 3D concepting in cinema, so let's just create something and create, try, and just creating, again, small experiments and learning those things I want to learn. And maybe once in a while having like a big project, which I think is also very important, have something that feels like that high fidelity prototype, is something very polished. But I think this one actually I started at the end of December last year. So, and I worked on this maybe 7 weeks in total, but you can see how like, and just trying some of these things I did very quickly. And after that, I decided to push my portfolio forward. So this was last year in October. I started working on a new portfolio with a goal to get some cool internship for this summer, actually, or some kind of job. I was thinking, I found very interesting, like Apple, Humane, maybe Snapchat. So I was like, okay, I need new portfolio and really show the new message they want to share, which is I have a big range of work, big range of skills, which not so deep, but it's there. And I'm open to learn, and I'm excited about this and show a lot of visuals. So I approach the portfolio kind of like a design process. What are the needs of my users, which are recruiters or hiring managers, but also what's the art direction kind of I wanna have, right? What kind of message I wanna communicate? What's the personality I wanna show of myself? I feel like nowadays, especially on portfolios, it looks all the same. And maybe mine still, it's not that standing out, but I tried, and I think it's good to, yeah, just approach it more like a design process and think about what's the message, what's the vibe you want to communicate, and what do you think makes you unique compared to others. I think pretty often we are hiding those things. I don't know why, especially students. I don't know if it is the pressure of society that we feel like we need to get those internships or jobs or succeed or have a lot of money, or what is it? I feel like we tend to play things too safe. And me too, sometimes, not gonna lie. But I think actually when we start showing what makes us unique and maybe different than others, maybe that's how we can stand out and have an interesting presentation of ourselves. And last two things I want to mention, then kind of like to finish the whole story of myself. Then I actually posted this on my LinkedIn, because I sent this to some companies, but I didn't get some much response. I was like, okay, I'll just share it on LinkedIn. And actually, I got reached out by a recruiter from Apple. So the plan was getting the plan was getting internship for this summer, but actually I kind of don't know how it happened. They offered me a contract for till the end of the summer to work on some cool stuff at Apple. So that's kind of how I wanna finish this whole presentation and story of myself. I hope there was something useful. I know it was a lot, it was a bit random, but yeah, take what you feel like. And last thing I can mention, I actually messaged this to my friend. I think she's here actually. I think there's still many opportunities for everybody. I know it's a tough market right now for getting jobs and internships and in general learning design. But I think especially in terms of when it comes to looking for opportunities, I think there's still many of them. You just need to look at places where not everybody is already looking, because then the competition is super big. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacob. I can actually just listen to you for 2 hours. It's always so inspirational just listening to you. Your humility, your passion, and your vulnerability is so awesome. And I bet that everyone here got so much out of your talk. So thank you so much. So right now we can get to the Q&A part where you guys can just unmute if you guys want and just ask, maybe introduce yourself a little bit and then just ask away. Jacob is here and like he's really really excited to answer all of your questions. So I actually saw a question in the chat, so maybe we can start with that first. So the question is by Varians. What are some of your favorite resources for self-teaching other than YouTube?
Yeah, I think I've done a lot of courses. I think more and more recently. It's a bit bigger investment from money perspective, but I think the courses work very well for me. So yeah, I sometimes I even bought some courses for a few $100s to learn some things. Uh, but especially I think it was on the last slide. I can quickly share it again. For XR, I kind of put together some interesting books and inspirations and people, and also some films, shows, guidelines that I think are also great learning resource. But yeah, I think courses and also learning from people, talking to them, getting feedback, and getting insights on what you can do better on the things that you're already looking. I think that's also a very important part of teaching anything, having somebody who will give you that feedback.
She says, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your answer. And thank you so much for your question. Does anyone else has a question? You guys can just ask away.
Yeah, ask anything. I like questions.
Hi Jacob.
Hey.
I'm a student from SIC at junior year, and I'm kind of a UI and UX designer. And I'm wondering, like for you, especially for like XR and AR designer, like how do you like learn something new so quickly? Like I know for you kind of guys, and you have to reach out some very new tools and maybe apps in like maybe 1 year to 2 years, and how do you approach that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, it's definitely not easy journey. Especially in the beginning, I felt a lot of the time that I'm actually don't know where I'm heading or if it makes sense. But I think the only answer I would have is probably just start making anything that comes to your mind, like literally anything, and start to like try to get somewhere and create something. And that I think will just, I think it's just important to keep going, even though sometimes it doesn't make sense or seems hard. So I would approach it in a way: choose a tool you're interested in, whatever tool it is. It's not important. The tools are changing anyway. It's more about just getting into it and trying something. I don't think it's really important what you're using, and just do a few tutorials, and then think about how you can leverage what you learned in something that interests you. And it can be anything. You can find the use cases for the explorations that you're doing based on what you're interested in. It can be hobbies. It can be maybe some problem that you come across in your real life that something is not working. Maybe think about how you can make that better in XR or any other medium. And yeah, just make things. I hope it answers, but yeah, it's a lot of just trying building, and patience, I would say.
So you kind of recommend for the new designers to focus on like one specific tool, is more like better than start with many kind of tools, right?
Uh, I think you should really. I think personally, I was learning a lot of tools. I never was focusing just on one because, as I said, I think the tools will be changing anyway. Even now, with my current job, I had to learn a lot of things that I didn't use before. But I think I would really listen to how you feel about the things that you're exploring. If you find something if you try something and you find it interesting, I would just keep going. If you don't feel like it, give it a few weeks, maybe move to something else. I wouldn't try to overthink it. What's the better tool or what's the better project I could do? I would really listen to what you enjoy, and I think if you listen to that, I think it will get you where you need at some point, even though it might feel a bit confusing for the part of the journey. And I'm also struggling with that. Don't take me wrong. I'm always also thinking, okay, what could be the best way for me to get there? But I'm also kind of trying to learn that it's just important to start making and really focus on your interests. What you like and what you find enjoyable, because I think that should be also the main thing in the end, doing something that we actually enjoy and that we want to spend the time on. Because if we are doing something we don't enjoy, then it will be so hard for you to get the motivation, I think, to keep going. Especially when learning such something complex like XR. So yeah, I hope it answers. I know it was.
Yeah, that helps me a lot. And one last question. Do you think like designers need to learn some kind of programming skills? Like you said, you have learned something like Unity 3D or C Sharp. Do you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
that's it's a very kind of common question. Something I think it will change in the upcoming years. Uh, since there is XR is becoming bigger, there is more and more tools making it easier for XR designers to design the experiences and prototype that we wanna create. But I think right now, I would say, especially for Unity, I think knowledge of C Sharp is still valuable, but not necessary. I think if you want to really get into the high fidelity prototyping, then definitely you need that. But I would, with AI nowadays, I would look for ways how you can hack it a bit. I use ChatGPT so much for programming. I use Cursor, which is great development tool. And yes, like yeah. So I would try to leverage it. But I think if you want to take it slower and not feel like too overwhelmed, I think you can start with tools such as like Bezier or Shapes. Get a sense of it, and maybe if you find it interesting, you can create more complex stuff in Unity. But I think the programming knowledge is especially useful if you want to, let's say, create some new interactions, stuff like that. If you want to more focus on creating kind of like scenes or more like concepts of different experiences, then you might be enough if then it might be enough to not have much programming knowledge. Or you can also fake some things in Blender or Cinema. um I think programming is mainly for prototyping, where you actually want to try the ideas that you have in the real experience in the format that you are designing for or prototyping for. So if you want to be more like a designer, then you might be enough. Sometimes in those companies, there's designers and prototypers. So designers think about more the concepts and maybe create like a vision in some 3D tool, something simple in Bezier and Figma, and then you have prototypers who code it. But yeah, so maybe yeah, I think that's kind of I answered to myself. Maybe you don't need programming that much, just if you want to get it really into prototyping and complex interactions.
gotcha? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question, Felix, and thank you so much for your for your answer. Very insightful answer, Jacob. So I actually saw some questions in the chat that I think would be great if we can if Jacob can answer. One of it is from Annie Lee. What is your thoughts on AI in your field?
Yeah, I think AI is a big thing for all the fields, but I think especially in AR, it's a big thing because AR and XR in general, since we have, especially I'll talk about AR, we have cameras on those devices that understand the context of the situation that the user is in, right? We know what they, as I was mentioning, there's so many inputs. We know what they are doing, and we even know where they are at. If I have some kind of this future device, maybe it knows that I'm right now talking to some kind of, I have some kind of talk and I have laptop in front of me, and maybe it knows that if somebody calls me, I shouldn't get it because I have very important thing going on. So I think that was like just very quick example, but I think it's very important because when we leverage all the huge amount of data we have about users' contacts and what they are doing, and combine it with AI, we can provide them with much more contextual experiences. So those different experiences will be there for users when they actually need them. So I think the system will be very flexible and dynamic, changing all the time based on what we are doing. So that's, I think it will be a big thing, like contextual experiences, and AR a big part of it because it has so much inputs and data.
Thank you so much for that question, Annie, and thank you so much for your answer, Jacob. So I saw that there's some more question in the chat, but I think it'd be great if we go with the next question from Shiley, because I saw her raising your hand. Maybe you can unmute and introduce yourself a bit and ask your question.
Hello, hi. Thank you so much for the talk. It was really wonderful and truly inspirational. I actually would like to know more about your work experience. Like, it's amazing that you worked at Reality Labs and Apple both. So my first question would be like, what makes them so exceptional in terms of their work environment, and what are like the values or skill sets that they truly appreciate in somebody that they hire as an intern or like as an employee?
Yeah, I think I can mention a few things for each, or maybe one thing. I think what I realized at Meta was that everybody I was working with was super excited about what they were doing, and not doing that just because they need money, but actually because they are interested. And I think that makes the people even more motivated, all by each other, kind of this bubble effect. So I think that's first thing why I think it was awesome. And of course, I mean, these big tech companies have literally one of the best people in the world. So I think the amount of knowledge and skills that those people have and that you can learn from them is really exciting, and something I was super excited about. Yeah, I think at Apple, what I think, and I cannot really talk much about specifics, but I think what there I noticed is that people have a really strong and good taste on things in terms of what actually feels good, which I think is super important right now, especially with AI. I think we can have all these AI tools and things that can make things faster for us, but there will still have to be somebody who knows what actually feels good and looks good, and it's very hard. I mean, I don't have that. I think 99% of designers don't have that. So I think that's something I really feel at Apple is awesome, that people people are opinionated. They're not scared of being subjective, which it's kind of interesting, thing in like at the design, because we are pretty often taught we shouldn't be subjective, right? But I think yeah, I think sometimes we need to be opinionated, be subjective, but we be willing to change the opinion quickly. I think, yeah, I think that's what probably makes me the most excited about these two. And admit probably also the openness and transparency across the whole company, and what's going on in the different projects at Apple is a bit different in terms of transparency. I mean, I'm not saying it's better or worse, but yeah, Meta was very, very open and transparent across different organizations. Did it answer? And you mentioned the second question.
Yeah, I'll make it real quick because there's other people too, so thank you. And my second question was, since like this entire XR landscape is evolving so rapidly, I'm somebody who's more interested in like experimental research and prototyping. So having worked at these places that are so focused on this, how much value does that hold compared to somebody who's more focused on the production side of things or like the designing and programming side of things?
Yeah. So I think exploration and research. I'm not sure what specifically research, what kind of research you mean, but if you mean more like creating, let's say, future-oriented concepts and explorations, I think those companies need it, because compared to, for example, more conventional SaaS companies, they are not, I would say, they are not exploring that much further. But Meta and Apple and all these, big companies, they have so much money, and they want to have this research and this exploration to be the first ones that kind of discover the future, and that are there when they get there. They are trying to get to the future faster, kind of, and who is the fastest. So I think that's why it makes sense, and why, as if you're interested in exploration and prototyping, I think especially these companies make sense, because they give you so much space for you, and they want you to do it. If you're working on something that goes into production right now, I would say it's pretty often more focused on making money and business at some point. So, which I mean, it always is, every company, I would say, but especially in those research oriented labs, I think it's more just about exploring. And I think a lot of people are just building what they think is cool and what they think will be good. And of course there's some research, but it's a fun, you're just playing and trying things that you think might be cool to do in the future.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your question, Shelly, and thank you so much, Jacob. Can we go with Bridget next? Can you ask a question?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for giving this talk. It was really informational. I liked what you said about the playground area of your like portfolio where you were showing like all your explorations, and so related to that, I was curious about how you market yourself as an artist more specifically, like how do you tailor it? Because I mean, like in some ways, like I have a tendency to overthink my portfolio and what to show, and like having too much versus like not enough. And I think it's important to show multiple skill sets, but I'm like a 3D, I have like my art practice encompasses a lot of different things, but 3D is one of them. And then it also like kind of goes into coding. So like, how do you kind of like, if you're like open to exploring like other for like a job or something, like how do you market yourself as like a, I guess if you're trying to apply to multiple different things and just like explore and get out there. I don't know if that's like maybe that's not a more specific question, but
yeah, thank you. I think I know what you mean. I think with the artist itself, I would say by saying artist, I'm kind of trying to communicate that I believe that design is a medium that we can even use to express our own feelings in a way and be subjective, even in design. So I think, I mean, in terms of like communicating myself, I think I'm still definitely more oriented towards design and prototyping. And I think at the end, it doesn't really matter that much. How do I title myself, I would say, because if it's clear, I think from my work, the focus is on the playground, probably not that much, but on the main page, I feel like it's kind of clear what I'm focusing on. But I could, yeah, I mean, I could be more strategic about it, and maybe more specific, and maybe define specific direction. But yeah, I think by artist, it was maybe just it was just maybe something I just like, oh, I like art, and I think design is art too. I think all designers are artists in some way because we always bring some kind of our own perspective to what we are making. So maybe I didn't put that much thinking into that, to be honest. So I think I'm hoping that the work I have on the main page, which I have to a bit more smart about than the playground, communicates what I do. And I think with being general, I think I I'm personally bigger fan of being more niche and specific in your portfolio, even if you have to create multiple portfolios. I think like yeah, I think being general is just tricky. I always think that, let's say, us two, me and you are applying for AR role, right? I think I might have a bit higher chance if I, even if we have the same work, the same quality. I think, and I'm assuming, maybe I'm talking nonsense, but I think if I present myself as AR designer, as an AR focused designer and prototyper, I might have slightly bigger chance, even though we have similar skill set and have that portfolio focused just on that. So I think I would maybe be a bit more strategic about having one portfolio, maybe focus on one specific thing, and maybe then one more general, which you use for other applications. It might work. I don't know. I never tried it. But yeah, I hope it answers.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for the conversation that you evoked, Bridget. I think it's really interesting. Next up, can we go with Jeffrey? Can you introduce yourself a bit and ask a question?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and having Jacob here is really inspirational to hear him. I'm Jeffrey. I'm a student here at SAIC, Master of Architecture. So I have like three questions. First off, Unity versus Unreal Engine. That'll be my first question to you first.
Yeah, I don't think there's one answer to it. I think it depends what do you want to do and what do you want to focus on. I think for interaction, I don't know that much about Unreal. I mean, I know Unreal, but what I can say is that I think from my perspective, from more like AR interaction designer, most of the companies are using Unity for that. But I'm sure there's a lot of great use cases for Unreal too. If you want to focus more on the details and the visuals and the quality of it. So I think Unity is preferred for interaction exploration, and in general in the field. But I think you can also do a lot of cool stuff in Unreal if you like that. If it aligns with what you're interested in and passionate about. So yeah, I think it's different use cases, I would say.
Yeah, thanks. My second question would be like, since you're already like far in the game, how would you see like the projection for architecture in digital space? Do you see more like do you see more Ready Player One situation occurring, or are you seeing more like
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
oh, like I was like, since you're already far into the game, into the space, what do you see architecture transforming into in the digital scape? Do you see it more like a Ready Player One situation where we are creating like actual like if you played Sims, did you play Sims?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you see something like that occurring? Like with the
Oh,
way the
in
tools
real
are
life?
advancing? Yeah.
I mean, so you're talking more about architecture?
No, I'm really talking about like how
XR and future?
XR in the
Uh,
future with the
I
way we are
mean,
moving.
yeah, I think things will become hyper personalized and hyper customizable for every individual, and I think will become part of the stories or games or anything we are doing, watching. We will, I think it will be much easier to actually be in be spend time with people who you're not physically with, and maybe take a walk with them even though you're in different places. And yeah, there's a lot of things. I think especially the personalized part is a big one. I think at some point, and probably that's 10 15 years, maybe less, I think the technologies will be that strong that you'll be basically able to change anything in the real world, kind of, because you're able digitally to put anything, right? Maybe I don't like white color. I make this room blue just for myself, but I'm not, which I'm not saying that's good or bad. There'll be a lot of concerns about it and a lot of things that I'm not sure about, but yeah, I think it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, thanks. And then my final question would be, with the integration of AI, like GPT characters and avatars in the virtual space, like there was a situation where I had to program one GPT character for like a game, and then it broke the script based on the personality I gave it. So maybe it was supposed to tell me what I'm supposed to do next, but because of the personality the character had, it then had this sort of like a sentient. If I call it sentient, I don't want to call it sentient, but it chose not to give me the next option to progress. So I was like, does that kind of occur in most of the XR planning? Like when you integrate AI models, do they sort of like make their own decisions on their own? Do you see such challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the direction of the product you're using. I think there can be what you mentioned. There can be something else. I think nobody really knows. I think there will be different products we can use. Some things, maybe some ideas that we think right now are cool, but when we actually start using them, we might find out it's actually not as cool as we thought. Uh, but yeah, I can definitely see some form of AI agents happening in the future in any aspects of your life. And I think, yeah, I think it'll be help you to help you achieve no matter what you do, if it's fitness, if it's career, if it's like personal life. Yeah, I think I'll be able to impact anything, but yeah, it's a bit tricky. I mean, it's a good question, and yeah, as I said, there is a lot of threats around it too.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question, Jeffrey. I told my friend that we would probably hang out in the metaverse sometimes, but they thought that I was joking, but I was not. So I guess we can go with the last question for today's event. Julie Shen, she was raising her hand for a while, so maybe you can introduce yourself a bit and ask the question.
Yeah, hi. I'm a freshman at SAIC and I'm currently studying painting and drawing. But I'm interested in like all those tech companies and like design, like graphic design or like AR, VR. So my first question is like I think you'll be seeing a lot of people working in those tech companies. And have you seen people who are like who have studied in the fields of like studio design, like studio, like painting and drawing, or like sculpture or architecture that are more not relating to like technologies?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think those people, I think my kind of observation, and I don't want to generalize too much, but I think pretty often those people coming from different fields, other than in interaction design or UX design, I think those are the ones who can actually bring the creativity there and the new approaches. I think people who study design, and I mean, don't want to generalize, but pretty often we are so used to the processes that we are kind of taught, that we forget about the creativity aspect. And probably a lot of the best designers I've met actually didn't study design, but something maybe art oriented, or maybe do something art oriented. I know Jackie does a lot of art too, so I'm sure she would share with us a lot on that too. But yeah, I think wouldn't be worried about it. I would use this as the advantage kind of, and maybe unique aspect you have, the creativity and new perspectives that you can bring into design, and even the subjective point of view. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of people like that. I wouldn't be definitely scared about it.
Thank you. That's very encouraging. My second and my last question is, it's just a very general question. I saw your website very briefly while you're presenting, and I think it's really inspirational. And I think using website as like your portfolio for like people like showing, and I saw like your background, and you didn't just explain like, oh, like you explain like there was a lot of things that I could tell about you from the website. And my question is, I don't think people like if like someone like, I don't know, like Steve Jobs, he like people would just search his website if he ever created his website. But like I'm just like a beginning, and I don't think people will search my name and like so my question is, how do you promote your website, and how do you make people to get into your website and like read through all those information?
Yeah, I think thank you for the question. I think not many people go to I don't think the goal of my page is somebody to get there from Google or other sites. I think portfolio works as a as a thing that can communicate myself and my interest when I need. So I think it works very well if I'm reaching out to somebody specific and wanna maybe have a chat with them or collaborate or anything else. I can just attach to my website, and I think it's the most conventional way right now. But there is other ways, other things, other formats you can use. Maybe it can be PDF, maybe even a physical if you want, if you can get it to the correct people in the situation you're with them. But yeah, so I think website just works well right now in terms of what I'm trying to achieve with it, but I never promote it or anything like that. I think it works, especially when I need somebody to take a look at my work when they are not with me. But it can be also Instagram. I think website gives you more space to really communicate the vibe and the message you want to communicate. It's Instagram or maybe Behance are much more curated, but also work well. I think it depends what's your goal and what's the industry. But I like the freedom and that I can share it with anybody anytime. I don't have them to download links or send a physical copy to them by mail.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Julie. So I guess that question will help wrapping up our event today as we already passed our ending time. Thank you so much, Jacob, for your so insightful and inspirational conversations and presentations on your journey and your work. I think it inspired a lot of us here. So to wrap this up, we will be very grateful if you guys can help doing this feedback survey is a things for DDC to just help improving the events that we're gonna organize in the future. And thank you everyone so much for spending your time attending our event today. And one last thing, I was hoping that if you guys are comfortable like just opening your videos so that we can take a quick recap photos so that we can cherish this very memorable moment with Jacob. Okay, waiting for everyone to open their camera.
Wow, that's a lot of faces.
Yeah. This is real humans behind the screen. Okay,
Oh,
is everyone ready? Sonia and Liu, do you guys want to open your camera? Emma?
fine. We have a lot
Okay,
of-
let's just take a photo.
Yeah, I can't do that at the moment. So
Okay.
Okay.
No worries.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no pressure. Okay, everyone say cheese.
Oh, wow.
Wow, so many balloons. I didn't know that we have this
Thanks, guys.
effect. Thank you so much, guys. Please have a happy evening. Goodbye. Have a nice weekend. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jacob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, man.